I myself have studied. Yes! Okay! I myself have studied. What the hell? Hey YouTube friends, it's Linda Bushe here. Welcome to my channel. So this is the segment that I have been most excited to start. Basically, I wanted to have conversations on my channel that revolve around careers in millennial. Have important conversations about building a career path, figuring out your life post high school, post university, and what it really looks like making a career path for yourself in the world we live in today. One thing that we really have to look out for is giving each other, a bumper sticker advice, those kind of like, if it's meant for you, it will find you kind of things. I mean, there's some truth to that. Those things are worth their salt somewhat, but it's important to do your research and to speak to people. And I just want that to be and I just want this to be the space where I can maybe start some of those conversations, continue those conversations, relay my experiences, and maybe have some guests whose experiences I can take from and share with you guys as well. I really think there is a need for that kind of community, and I really think that also in doing that, we remember to actually be present in the communities outside of our, little gates and ivory towers. Yeah. I have a rough vision of what I want this to be, but we'll see how it goes. I am working a full-time job, so recording. I can't promise weekly. Maybe like bi-weekly, I also want to put out other content on my channel, beauty, DIY, fun stuff, light stuff, but there's also a place for this. The one reason that I think we need to redefine work is because it simply doesn't suit us anymore. It is in such a traditionalist view that we enter the workplace, and that we are groomed in the workplace, and that we end up perpetuating as we mature in the workplace. I'll just give you one example. The way that women who leave work to have children and raise children are treated is horrendous. The workplace is not designed to reabsorb them, and you would think that in 2020, that would be the norm. There are some countries and some institutions that individually do this very well, but as a whole, women women are faced with the very reality that they have to choose having a career or having a family. And I think that's one of the ways that we need to look at redefining work, so that it fits us, it fits the society we've come to be, instead of being the other way around. We usually try and take people and mold them to fit an organization, and I believe that is the wrong approach to things. I believe that it is humans first, work second, and you have to strike a balance with that when you get into the workplace that says quite the opposite: work first, human second. Anyways, getting on with the discussion. Let me look at my list. I am not being antisocial. Okay, moving beyond inclusivity. This point was actually very important to me to start with, because when we think about redefining work in a South African context, the first thing that comes to mind is transformation. I think we have been fed transformation for the past few years as an ideology, as the PC working stance, and as the template for being a business in the modern times. And simply said, for me, from my perspective, transformation is no longer enough. We need to move beyond just integrating marginalized people into existing organizations, but we need to actually shake things up from the top down. This thing of having token employees or bringing in CEOs of color when the company is going through scandals or rough times financially is, what's the word? It's undermining. It undermines our capabilities, and it undermines our purpose. I think it's really important that in South African workspaces, the transformation ethos is interrogated. It can't just be a little like fine print there in your contracts or in the company memo, mission statement anymore. Because if you look at the big organizations in our country today, the higher you go up the chain of command, the fancier organogram, it starts getting maler and it starts getting paler. Now in a country that is majority black, that signals one thing and one thing only. There is discrimination happening on the basis of color, and there is a hoarding of resources, and it's no longer enough to have black employees and consider your company transformed. I think black people, gender non-conforming people, women, people who are differently abled need to be put in positions of power and need to be put there in numbers, and they need to have decision-making power, because what's the point of being in a room just to be in a room when your voice doesn't count for anything? And I think that is one place where we need to really aim to redefine work, and things need to be shaken up.
Oh, bendinethemba because yonke into ibisiza yathatha i-sharp curve.
We've come quite far as a country, but there's a whole lot more shaking of that tree that needs to happen. Okay, my second point is I think it's really important that we transform the way work happens on a very basic material level. I know that the lockdown period of this coronavirus outbreak has spurred a lot of companies to redefine the way they work, literally. I am in the IT industry and telecommunications, so I've seen at a very material level companies, scrambling to put together their telecoms. I've seen companies scrambling to set up systems to be able to meet from their different homes, people having to upgrade their lines, people having to upgrade their software. And this is going to be the way of working moving forward. I don't think we're going to regress. Well, we shouldn't, in my opinion, because there are people who have health difficulties, physical difficulties, people who are torn between their families, as I just mentioned before, who need to be able to work in much more flexible terms. And I think we really need to advocate for work to be redefined in how it happens. So we've spoken about how we need to restructure organizations inside out. We've spoken about how work needs to be changed physically, materially, how it's done. And now for my third point, I think work needs to be redefined by changing the way we approach the gig economy. I think it's important to bring ethics and accountability back into this freelance work style. And this is not an indictment on freelance workers. This is actually my critique on the industries and the institutions that employ them and don't fairly compensate them, don't fairly protect them. I think there are people who really benefit from the ability to have flexible work and to choose to freelance and be contracted instead of being tied down to one organization. I just think it's really a shame that often those people are exploited and they don't have a real sense of stability because institutions want to take as much out of them as possible and give as little as possible. We've seen, obviously I'm going to be using the example of Corona because that is current events. Just in the South African government alone, the Department of Arts and Culture and Sports came to the party quite late when it came time to make announcements of what they were doing for their people. And now I did hear an official announcement that they are giving out funding to individuals who apply, and those funding the way that funding is done is on an individual by individual basis. You have to make your case, and they'll tell you if they can fund you, and they'll tell you how much they're going to fund you for. And it was really unbearable to see a lot of our country's great performers and valued artists quite in distress because they didn't know where they were going to get an income from, and they didn't feel supported by the government. And I think that's one thing that needs to change. And looking beyond the government, private businesses themselves also exploit these gig workers. There are rewards and responsibilities that come with being considered an official employee. And I understand that that's what the difference is there for. Contracted workers don't want to be held at such a close range, such as in the same way that employees are. But also we need to find a better balance of contracted workers not being exploited, where workers who are working temporarily at retail stores on a temp basis are not kept temp for years and years so that the organization is not paying them as much and not giving them benefits. And this happens. So I think that is my third and final point of an area that needs to really be re-looked at and redefined when it comes to work. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for hearing me ramble. And I hope that we can have a lot more conversations around work, life, careers, and just growing up. This thing is not linear. There is no manual, and we'll only figure it out together. Ciao.